Hello everybody and welcome back to Lost Planeswalker. You're here with me, Jesse, the Lost Planeswalker. Today we're going to cover everything you need to know about Tarkir Dragonstorm before it releases fully April 11th. Let's start as always by looking over the different card frames, different types of products that you can expect to see in this set. As always, we have our core products with play boosters that have 30 packs each. One note that is different is the packs no longer include an ad card. Now you get either an art card or a double-sided token, which I think is a really nice change. Nobody really cares for the ads. Obviously, there's a lot of other ways they can put ads, arena, everything else. So it's not really necessary like it used to be. Looking at the collector boosters, of course, there's 12 packs, and the bundle boxes have 9 packs, remaining identical to what we've received in the last few sets. One of the fun things about this set is that there are 5 commander decks for the 5 clans for Dragonstorm. Each of the 5 commander decks has a Con and a Spirit Dragon as the commanders in a great extended art treatment that look really nice. One of the notes is when we got return of MSRP, the decks did go up in price a little bit, and I think these decks are hovering around $50, so a little higher than even MSRP, but they're really cool, and I think there's some fun cards in them. Now, something we haven't seen in a while, similar to commander decks, we have 5 pre-release kits with this set. Each will have a themed box that comes with a custom pack to help during deck building. So you get that custom pack, 5 regular packs, and the other stuff that normally comes in a pre-release kit. But this will help you with that color wedge, making sure if you're playing Abzan, you have some good stuff for that. Teamer, Sultai, Mardu, and Jeskai. Now that we have the products out of the way, let's move into the card treatments, because this might be some of the most card treatments we've ever received, with different card treatments for special guest cards, special foils, Halo foils coming back, all kinds of stuff. So the biggest chase card in this set is the serialized retro frame Mox Jasper that is done none other by Dan Frazier, who did all of the original Mox cards. It's very beautiful. Whether it's going to be that good to play is debatable, but if you're a collector and you collect all of the Dan Frazier Moxen, this is definitely going to be one to get your hands on, but it's going to come at a very, very steep price. Next, we'll look at the Ghostfire treatment, and there are 10 cards throughout this set that are getting this Halo foiling that we've gotten before, but it looks really nice and goes really well with this set. Next up, talking about special guest cards, we have the return of fetch lands that we originally got in Tarkir. We have some really amazing arts with even more special dragon scale foils, accounting for a second type of art we're getting for these fetch lands. So the fetch lands include all of the ultimatums with a special dragon spirit art on them, and then all of the fetch lands reprinted for a second time. These look amazing. The dragon scale foiling might be my favorite foiling to this date. Just the flavor, the special art with the dragons on the fetch lands are incredible, but these cards are going to come at a premium because they're 1 in the special guest slot, and 2 they're foil, and it's just going to be so much harder to get your hands on these. So if you want to pick these up to put in your dragon deck or just your regular decks, you're going to pay a pretty penny for them. Next up, we have some amazing full art lands in this set, with one being the Dragon Eye lands. These are very beautiful, and I know my friends are super excited to pick some of these up and put in their dragon and beast decks. Also, full art wise, we have these dragon lands with the shadows of the dragons flying over them. I think that those are also very beautiful and catch my eye especially. And during the Tarkir Dragonstorm events, you're going to be able to get your hands on a special Waste Dragon Eye promo that is a very cool look, and you're probably not going to be able to get as many of these because you can only get them during events. So whether you pick them up or buy them, those are going to probably be more pricey than all the rest. Moving on to the showcase treatments in this set. This is, again, one of my favorites. The showcase with the dragon wing art around the outside of the card really makes some of these dragons pop. This kind of reminds me of the ones we got from Innistrad, and while I don't think that those ones were as popular, I think that the wings of these dragons just look so much better around the frame, similar to the Cowhide ones that I know were a very big hit. So very, very cool. Another type of special card we're getting are these borderless dragons. Some of these are pretty playable, some of them not really, but as you flip them over, you have a baby version and an adult version similar to a secret layer we received. And of course we have Ugin, who's got that special treatment, and that's definitely going to be another chase card to pull in this set. But moving on to our borderless cards, we have these clan borderless cards with this great art with the creature highlighted, the color pair in the background, and the clan symbol stamped on top of it, giving a really refreshing look. You know, these still feel like Magic cards while just kind of focusing in on the creature. And I think that that's very special. We haven't really seen a lot of cards like this before, but I think it brings some real depth to these cards, especially if there's one of those that a commander you want to play. That's definitely one of my favorite arts that I would end up picking up to use in that slot. Along with that, we're getting some borderless siege cards, we're getting some other enchantments and spells and stuff in a borderless treatment that we haven't typically gotten, and they're just very beautiful. They add a little bit of flair and are going to make for some really great pulls. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about some of the mechanics in this set. Whether you're a big fan of drafting or just looking for some new stuff to throw in your decks, upgrading your dragons, or other color pairs in these cons, there's very, very cool abilities to talk about. Starting with the Abzan, we have this Endure effect, an effect that has two different uses that is incredibly strong. Whenever you endure equal to N. So if it's 1, you're going to endure 1, 2, 2. And when you endure, you either put a number of counters on a creature equal to the endure number, or you create a white spirit with power and toughness equal to that endure. Counters and creature tokens are two sweet spots that players love to build around. Not only this will be fun and limited, but it's going to be a great mechanic for years to come. Some of these endure mechanics scale very greatly, some of them not so much, but I think there's some really great cards that I'd love to throw in some of my decks. Next up, with Jeskai, we have a very flavorful effect that we've seen, kind of, but now we have an actual ability around it called Flurry. Flurry focuses around second spells you cast each turn. Each Flurry has a unique effect, but as our card resolves, you get the ability. Whether or not it was countered, all you need to do is cast it. So that's a very big plus. All of our Flurry effects are going to go on the stack as soon as we cast a spell. So if any of those copy that spell, even if it gets countered, you're still going to get that copy before it gets countered. So a very cool effect. I think that this is a pretty big power up for some Jeskai decks that really care about casting 2 or more spells per turn. I know I've definitely looked into this for decks I've built for this channel, so I'm very excited for that. Sultai follow, and they waste nothing by using the cards you put in your graveyard for additional value. Renew is a new ability we've seen recently by paying a cost and getting additional benefits. The graveyard has only become more popular with the Surveil lands, which we'll talk about more later, but using cards in your graveyard is only getting better, it seems like. Each Renew ability works a little different, but has similar effects when grouped together. All their activated abilities at sorcery speed, and they exile the card as part of the cost. One of the main similarities is that they all place a counter of some kind on a creature, whether it's +1/+1, menace, or whatever. There may be some other effects, but the Sultai is a group that grows in death. Mardu is next, and they're as rambunctious as ever and ready to mobilize. Mobilize is a new, and in my opinion, could be the weakest or strongest ability from this grouping. Mobilize acts the same across all cards, where as you attack, you make a number of 1/1 red warrior creature tokens that are tapped and attacking equal to the mobilize number on the card. Now, notably, you have to attack with creatures for mobilize to trigger, which I think is where this could be a downside. If you don't have a big enough board or enough protection, you could end up losing those creatures, but also that's where it's really good. In an aristocrat's strategy, which is the same colors as the Mardu, that can be incredibly strong, and I think once you have a board set up, or if you have good attacks to swing in, you can really get some damage through in the early game and then just knock out your opponents in the late game, and all you have to do is attack. So I think the Mardu ability can be really good. I'd love to see more on this, but let's move on to lastly, and certainly not least, with the big and powerful Teamer with Harmonize. Harmonize is the second ability that resolves from cards in your graveyard that is kind of new to this set. Harmonize uses your creatures to help reduce the cost to cast these spells from your bin. You either need to put a Harmonize card in your bin or cast it so it enters your graveyard naturally. Next, you may cast the card for its Harmonize cost by tapping a creature to reduce its generic mana, or just paying the Harmonize cost full sale. Some of the Harmonize spells are not really that great, and you really want to be tapping creatures in order to make them worthwhile. And some of them are just incredibly strong by using some of your creatures that maybe you're not going to attack with, or you're going to leave up, and you can tap them to Harmonize. There's a lot of potential, a lot of big creatures, and it really uses all the value of the Teamer. We did additionally get 2 different mechanics in this set that are seen through all the colors with Omen and Behold. Omen looks very similar to Adventures and works very similar, but has one large difference. When you cast these cards for their Omen side, you then shuffle it on resolution into your deck. This is a very cool ability because it allows you to cast these spells over and over again, and some of the Omens I think are very powerful and some of them are just mediocre, but that's what you expect. A quick note is that if the spell is not resolved or is countered, it goes into your graveyard instead of shuffling in. And just like the Adventures, the only relevant part of the cards is the dragon side of the card. You cannot search or count the Omen side in your library or hand or graveyard if there's any effect that would find a spell, or look at that part of the card. You can only count the dragon side. Behold, well, yes, this is the second of the two new abilities with Behold, and more specifically in this set, Behold Dragons. Behold works like an additional cost that you have to reveal a dragon from your hand, or if you control one on the battlefield. If you cannot, you have to pay the additional cost. And as we move into other sets, I think Beholding creatures may become very relevant in making some decks and strategies very powerful by using creatures of the same type in your tribal or kindred style decks. Behold kind of, to me, feels very similar to Lorwyn, and I hope we see a return to this as we get those different groups that Lorwyn is known for, seeing you beholding these creatures and getting additional value for building a deck around them. Now, this is not a new ability by any stretch, but we do see the return of hybrid mana, talking about Lorwyn in this set, where you can pay the colored mana or 2 generic for several different cards throughout this set, letting you cast spells outside of your main colors or your colors at all. This is going to be really nice universal spells in limited environments, and I don't think they're that good outside of them, but definitely worth looking at. And I alluded to earlier, but Surveil has returned, and this time it is coming back as an evergreen mechanic, which means we're not going to be seeing Surveil every once in a while. You can expect to see Surveil in every set from now on. As the graveyards get more influential, this ability will only get better over time, so I'm very excited to see this turn into an evergreen mechanic. Now, let's quickly cover the 5 commander decks and how you can expect these decks to play. This set has 5 different commanders from this set, 1 for each 3 color pair, and something that's quite unique about these commanders in particular is that we're not only getting main set versions of all the commanders, but their abilities differ pretty heavily between the commander decks and the other cards we're getting. All of the spirit dragons are represented, and most of the co-commander cons we're getting a second copy of. So this is a very cool thing that I'm very excited to see, getting 2 different versions. Maybe you really like one of the commanders, and you can swap it out for another version of it that came out in the main set. So starting with the Abzan, we have Abzan Armor. This deck revolves around playing defenders and turning toughness into power. The 2 commanders are Felithin, the Steadfast, and Baator, Ancestor's Voice. This is my all-time favorite color pair, and while I think this is a great deck, I think it falls under one of these commanders really needs to pick a lane. While we fall very heavily in the defender camp, the introduction of Baator as the commander is confusing. I think that these are 2 very different decks, and Baator would be a very fun deck to build on its own, but it's not necessarily as good in Abzan Armor as I would hope the co-commander would be. Next up with the Jeskai, we have Jeskai Striker. This deck is all about casting extra spells, and Flurry Flex being the main Jeskai mechanic in this deck. This deck has a unique pair where we have a Con and a Dragon as one of the commanders, and then another Con as Elash Threefold Master, and the Dragon pair as Shurko and Narset Unified. I think Shurko and Narset Unified is a way better commander and definitely worth running as the commander in this deck, but there is certainly a really cool strategy with Elash, but I think it'll be a pretty hard deck to run without making some pretty major changes. Jeskai does what Jeskai's always done better, and we have some new cards that really make the strategy better than it's ever been. So I think that the new cards from this set and the new cards in this deck really power up some Jeskai strategies, and if you're a Jeskai player, look into this deck because I think there's going to be some cards that are worth swapping out into your other powerful decks. Sultai is back with Sultai Arisen, and that's what this deck does. Filling the graveyard and returning zombies is what you expect from a Reanimator Sultai, but this time it's unique for zombie druids, which is a joke. Aside from the commanders, Kotis, Sibsig Champion, and Taval, the Balanced Scale, both do very nice Sultai effects that I expect to see, but don't blow me away either. I think both of these are very fun cards and are going to make very fun brews around, but I don't think they're going to outpace any of the previous Sultai commanders that are currently in the top 100. Coming in fast and mobilizing an army in the process is the Mardu. We're looking at Mardu Surge that make attacker tokens and sacrificing them for value. While the other decks get stronger the longer the game goes on, Mardu Surge becomes unbelievably powerful as it stacks all of the triggers that can end in a game for all your opponents in a single turn. Zurgo Storm Shredder and Neriv Crackling Vanguard care about creating tokens and providing some great value for attacking. I have experienced some Mardu decks that have been revolving around tokens before, and I think these two have some of the new strongest cards for token generation. You get the best value and aristocrats I've ever seen. This, to me, seems like the best deck if you want to play and get the job done. And lastly here, we have the Temur deck with Temur Roar. Mana Ramp and Summon Dragons is the name of the game, and again, it's exactly what you expect to see in this color pair. I would have liked to see some more creativity, but the commanders bring some fun play with Ishka, Temur's Roar, and an Urian of the Unwritten. They all care about casting big spells, and Ishka will be dealing some big damage, and Urian will let you play dragons from your hand for free, which is honestly a cool card, but I think it's going to go much better in a Miram deck than anything, so that's where we're at with Temur in this set. All the commander decks are really fun to play and worth looking into, but picking up all 5 decks seems like a little too much unless you want to spend that money to collect them all. I hope you enjoyed this video and it's taught you all what you expected to see from this set. Normally I get these videos done much earlier, but we're here now, and these cards are all out and spoiled, so if you haven't looked at them, go check them out. We got some really great cards, and I think wait a little bit for the prices to dip on them, because I think some of the prices I saw are just a little overhyped right now, and they'll go down over time. Comment down below on what you think of this set, or products, whatever input you have on it. Do you like some of the commander decks? Do you like some of the new abilities from this set? Is there any card frames you're particularly interested in? I would love to hear about it. And if you would like to help me out, please leave a like, share this video with a friend, and subscribe. It would mean the world to me, so thank you. And if you want to help me out another way, please check out my Patreon. I'm still growing and working full-time, so just showing me some support there, just following me for free would be a big help. The more attention I get means, the faster I can grow that and do more Magic content. So thank you so much. Now, today's Scryfall card of the day is Borderland Ranger. Only fools and bandits use roads. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you later, Planeswalkers.